they hit us going 60 when we were coming out from the stop sign at 5 miles an hour. My daughter and I were in the car together, and we both got brain injuries.
What does it mean to find hope and purpose in the face of incredible adversity? Out of everything bad, I believe there can be something good, whether it is learning a lesson or being able to help others. So guys, welcome to Overflowing Buckets, where people give freely from their overflowing bucket to fill others up. Today, we have an extraordinary guest, Dawn Corbelli. After a life-altering brain injury, Dawn has transformed her experience into a mission of education and support, offering hope and understanding to others on similar journeys. So guys, join us as we explore Dawn's inspiring story of strength and the power of connection. So Dawn, tell us about your life before the injury. I think you were in the Air Force, right?
I was, and I've always tried really, really hard in everything I do. And when I was in the Air Force, I got Airman of the Year, and then I got out because I was pregnant. And I was a stay-at-home mom for 16 years, and I went to college during that time, and I got a bachelor's in applied behavioral science. And some of my college course was I had to do something like form a club. And so I went to the high school, and the club was called TAG, Teens Against Gossip.
Oh.
And it meant a lot to me because, I mean, there's so much stuff like that in high schools, and people actually kill themselves because of things like that. And I wanted to teach empathy and compassion.
Yeah, so tell us, you had an accident.
Yes.
Right? So tell us
Mhm.
about the accident and how that impacted you and the aftermath that got us to where we're at now, because that was such a huge impact.
Changed our lives forever. We got in a really horrific car accident, and my daughter and I were in the car together, and we both got brain injuries. And
How old
hers
was
is
she? And when was this?
She was 15. It was February 13th, 2008. We just had our 17th anniversary,
Oh, goodness.
which you would think would be fine, but my daughter still cries every year and has horrible anxiety. And even if we leave the room, she has to know where we're going because she's afraid we won't come back.
Oh,
But I think,
how old
honestly,
is she now?
she's 32.
Okay.
I sort of think part of it that's adding to that anxiety now, though, is a couple years ago, my husband, she found him holding his heart when he didn't have a heart attack, but he just had a problem with his heart. So that was really, really scary for her.
Yeah.
So, but about the accident, she was driving with her permit 3 months before she got her license, and she was a really good driver. But we were pulling out from a stop sign, and we didn't see a truck coming, and it was a 4x4, and we think it was behind an 18-wheeler, but we'll never know because there was no skid marks. But they hit us going 60 when we were coming out from the stop sign at 5 miles an hour.
Oh, God.
And so we were T-boned on the driver's side, and she was knocked unconscious in a coma. And she ended up in the hospital. She was, I forget my words because I do have a brain injury, so I apologize that I might say or be quiet for a second because that's just part of the injury.
I don't think a lot of us noticed, but yeah.
Okay, so she was in the hospital for 3 months with a severe traumatic brain injury and bruised her frontal lobe, had sheared her brain stem, had 8 breaks in her pelvis, 2 broken hips, a broken left ankle, and a paralyzed left side, which now is not paralyzed. And I was going to have her come today, but she's been having a little bit of anxiety. So She was in the hospital for 3 months learning how to do everything over again. Walking, talking,
I
eating,
bet.
everything. And then I hit my head and have a moderate traumatic brain injury, had 9 staples and 6 breaks in my pelvis, and was in the hospital for 3 weeks. So after that, we were both in a lot of physical therapy and speech and occupational therapy. For her, it went on for about a year and a half after, and we've been in therapies on and off since then. She's been in a lot more than I have, but it's continued on for 17 years.
And brain injuries, I know you mentioned it happens a lot more often than people realize. You said
Yes.
one person gets a brain injury every 9 seconds on average.
That's
And
correct.
people are uneducated. I'm more familiar with like our typical brain injuries in concussions, like sports concussions and things like that.
Well,
Are
they
we
say they're
including that in the 9 seconds in this brain injury stat?
Yes, I'm assuming so. I just go by it said 1 in 9, but those are brain injuries also, and they're considered mild when they're a concussion. The difference is how long you've been unconscious for. That's what says whether it's mild, moderate, or severe. That's mostly what they go by. Although a mild isn't mild at all. You can have the same symptoms as if you have a severe injury, and it can last, it's supposed to go away within 3 months, but it can last a lifetime if you have post-concussive syndrome.
And we're seeing more of that now, I think, than before. I think people are becoming more aware in the brain scans as well, right? That happen. And I remember somebody was saying that they used to believe that once you had a brain injury, your brain doesn't heal. But that myth isn't true anymore, that the brain does create a workaround and it can heal. Is that correct?
Well, mild brain injuries do not show up in any kind of scans,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean you don't have deficits from it. And there is neuroplasticity where your nerves are able to make a new pathway so that you can function again. Not always, but a lot of times. But you're never the same again. And you're never the same because where they were attached before, that's your personality.
Right.
So when they're
It's a new pathway. It's not.
yeah,
Understand. Yeah,
yes,
it's a new pathway because it's a new pathway. It impacts the way you move forward, right? Because it's a new path.
yes.
So that means it's a different view. It's a different everything. Um,
hmm
so how, let's say you have a family member or somebody you know has a brain injury, because they happen more often than you not. What is the first bit of advice that you would say, okay, if you suspect you got a brain injury, car accident, sports, any way that whatever happens, what's the first thing somebody should do?
Get educated on brain injuries. That's the very first thing.
Okay, so where would they go to get this education?
Um,
Because there's so much information, like what is, like, let's say the top 3 things to do. My child has a brain injury. What is the number 1 thing to do? Yes, I'll search Google, but coming from you, Dawn, as somebody who's been studying this and understands all of this and has been in this world, what would you say is the first thing we do if I don't have internet access, I don't have anything? What is the first thing I do?
I would call the Brain Injury Alliance of America, and also there's Brain Injury Association of America. They've changed it, but also there is a Brain Injury Alliance or association in every state. So
Okay.
you would want to contact them
Okay.
because they
And then,
have resources, lots of resources.
so if there's an accident, I contact Brain Injury Alliance.
Yes, in the hospital, they don't give you all the information you need to know. But if
Right.
you have a brain injury and they do give you a bunch of information, which I think they did give us information, but you're in crisis. So you're in survival mode. You can't retain the information they give you.
Right. No, I completely agree. So if we're in crisis mode, what is like make sure that you do not do this? Are there things like don't do this if there's a brain injury?
Don't say, remember, because most brain injured people can't remember. They have really
Right.
bad memories.
Yeah.
So don't say remember. Be very, very patient with them. Get educated and be supportive. Because we're different, we don't understand why we say and do the things we do. I became really unfiltered. So did my daughter. And my not just my filter, but my temperament changed. And I get really like really easily. You know, like if somebody
Mhm.
upsets me, I kind of explode easily, which I'm actually on medicine for, and it works most of the time, but not all the time. And
Yeah.
wait, what was your question? Oh,
What are
if
yeah.
you if you cannot say you're a family member, if you do not accept them the way they are, they will never learn to accept themselves because you get frustrated because they're so different. But it needs to be remembered they get frustrated because they're so different. They don't even know why certain things come out of their mouths or through their brains.
It's not who they think that they are. They become somebody that inside, I guess it must feel like their body has been captured by somebody else. You know, the body's there. You look in the mirror, the body's there, but the person that you remember being in that body is not there. So they're having to relearn themselves. I get to know themselves again as well, right?
Yes, and a lot of times they have different likes and dislikes than they used to.
Well, but like, okay, would maybe like taste buds, would that change? Like, oh, one day I loved hamburgers, the next day I don't prefer hamburgers.
It is possible for that to change. People's taste changes, and a lot of times people can't taste anymore.
So I think what probably you had mentioned, like there's some things that maybe your daughter had said or did, and that might not have been your typical normal acceptance in the world, right? And like, oh, you
Right.
can't say that. And we can't, as folks who haven't had the brain injury, we've got to give a little bit more grace about that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, what are the best
Absolutely.
ways to help people who, let's say we're in a situation where somebody who's got a mental illness, a mental damage, like their brain isn't functioning like it's supposed to, they're going to do what they're going to
Mhm.
do just because that filter isn't there anymore. There's just not that it doesn't work like it used to, like society wants it to. How do we
Mhm.
help others be comfortable and not pass that negative judgment onto the person with the disability?
What I do for myself is I explain to people I have a brain injury. I process slowly. My comprehension is poor.
Mhm.
I might ask you to repeat something. And I have a bad memory. I'll do my best to follow the conversation. And people have been very kind to me. And my daughter is very unfiltered because her injury is severe, and she will say inappropriate things in public or do inappropriate things in public. Like for her, she became very sexual, and they told us in the hospital that that's what was happening. And she will touch men and on their faces, on their chest. She's a lot better than she used to be, but it's inappropriate. So we have talks before we go in public. There's no touching people. Um, like her her speech, things she says can be very sexual sometimes. And we explain to other people that she has a severe brain injury. And I'm sorry if something she says offends you. But I don't
Right.
worry about the public ever. I'm never embarrassed. I I don't worry what other people think because I know what happened to her brain. If they
Right.
don't want to know and they're not interested, I don't really care what they think.
So I love that in that you're not trying to hide it. You're not trying to, you do the best you can to protect
Hmm.
her, right? The best you can. But
Yes.
at the end of the
Hmm.
day, we're not hiding in a cave. We're going to go out, we're going to live the world, and you're going to find the people that'll accept her the way she needs to be accepted.
We
So,
were very, very lonely for years. We were lonely. Brain injury is an extremely lonely road because our behaviors are different and people don't understand, and a lot of times they don't want to understand, and we're inappropriate. They turn their backs and then they're not our friends anymore. And we
yeah.
have found new friends after a lot of prayer and years. It's taken years, but we have our group now that
How
loves
did you
us
come?
just the way we.
I love that. And I think this could probably go with for anybody. Like a lot of people find are do struggle finding their peer group and they don't even have a disability, much less having a
Yes.
disability and trying to like to find your people. I think there's such a value in that. So through prayer, how if you look at your peer group now, right? How did you
Yes.
I assume it happened with intention. It wasn't on accident.
Yes.
So tell us
Um,
what that process looked like for you guys.
well, for us, we have been so blessed, and it's so funny because my best friend, I tell her, I prayed for you. I prayed for you to come in my life. She is the sweetest person I have ever met, ever, anywhere. And it's really interesting because my husband is best friends with her husband. This doesn't happen all the time, whether you have an injury or not.
Right.
And she and I are friends, and she has a grown daughter and a grown son, and they're both married and have kids, and they love Veronica. She's just still inappropriate sometimes with them, but they just say, Veronica, we're not going to talk like that. Or they say, Veronica, we don't do that. And it puts her back in line, and they're still friends. They love each other so much. It's really beautiful.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you're just very honest, transparent, and that's how you found your tribe. You didn't try to change who you are, or I guess
Oh, no.
who you are, like the way you became, like who you are after the brain injury, right? Because you
Hmm.
literally and you didn't try to go backwards. I love you didn't try to go backwards to be who you were, the award-winning airman, right? That wasn't like
Right.
that's who you were. That's not who you are now. And it sounds like you've done such a fabulous job and your husband of embracing the who you are today.
Yes. I did learn something recently. After 17 years, it's
What's that?
taken me. I used to think I was so, so different, and I am. My temperament is very different. I don't have patience like I used to, and sometimes I don't talk as nicely as I wish I did, and I apologize for that, but it still hurts when things come out sometimes.
Mm.
And, but I was thinking about all the things I've done. And I look back, and here I was Airman of the Year, and I got a college education, and I was very productive with my life before. And it took me a lot of years, but the truth is, I'm extremely productive with my life now. I'm my daughter's caregiver. I have published a book. I write a blog weekly about brain injuries and our family. And we teach at schools. I mean, what has come out over the years is not so different than what there was before. I've always tried my best, and I still try my best.
I love
And I've always been
that.
motivated. I've always been really motivated to try and help other people. That has not changed one bit.
Um, so who you are is still who you are. The path
Yes,
is just, it might just been to the right a little bit or to the left a little bit, but you're still following your course of who you are. How did your
I am.
husband, yeah. So let me ask, your husband, it must have been challenging for him at first, right? To,
It's still challenging for me. We're a lot. Having two people in one family, a lot of times the spouse leaves when they just have a spouse that has a brain injury. And my husband is not only living with a spouse with one, he's living with a daughter with one. And I have to tell you, it's so unfortunate. She is not who she was.
yeah.
She she can't work. Can't, I say can't. She has different reasons. Not only has anxiety, she has something called adenamia, where it affects your motivation and initiation, and she can't remember the next step. Like, she's happy to do something that someone tells her to do, but she can't remember what's next.
So it sounds like a
And
lot of
so
executive functions.
completely, because her frontal lobe, the doctors called it scrambled eggs. We were told to find a nursing home for her and that she was expected to stay in a vegetative state. And now
Mm,
she is so high functioning, but we have guardianship of her because she makes very poor decisions. And so she will forever be, in many ways, like a 15-year-old. And that's when the injury occurred. And it's common to heal to heal or recover to the age of injury. And 15-year-olds are fun. She keeps me on my toes, but I couldn't love her more. We
I
spend our
bet.
days together, and they're the best days. I just feel like, and I've always felt like this, I had to raise her from babyhood again. When she came home from the hospital, she was like a 3-year old. And she's had to grow up all over again. And it took her pretty much 15 years to grow up to 15 again. And
Wow.
my attitude is, who wouldn't want to raise their child twice? Who wouldn't?
Attitude's everything. I
If given,
love how beautiful your attitude is and that mindset. And that's inspiring for every parent.
I just don't know. We just prayed for the Lord to leave her with us in any condition He chose. And we thought she would like be in a wheelchair and we would have to change her diapers, and none of
Mm,
that happened. I mean, she was like that, but she continued past that.
mhm.
And I've been grateful since the day I was so confused in the hospital. My husband had to tell me every day where she was because I didn't remember. And that was
Wow.
horrific for him.
That,
However, when when I got out of the hospital and I started seeing her improvements, she was in a vegetative state, and then she went to a minimally conscious state where you're partly aware of your surroundings, and she would do things like follow hand signs. Her boyfriend came to the hospital all the time, and she would do the I love you sign or
mhm.
2 fingers up. I can't tell you. I was like jumping up and down because she could do that. I never looked at what she lost. I only looked at what she could do.
I love that.
That's not common. I don't know anybody else like that, but that's how we live our lives. So, with everything that she's capable of doing, all the small things build up to big things, and it's awesome.
That is awesome. That is that is such a great reminder for all of us who don't have brain injuries, who don't have massive things. That that is what a wonderful way to live life, and it'll help us overcome any challenges. But the fact that you guys were able to get as far as you have against the odds
Hmm.
that the doctors wanted to give you, it's a testament to you guys extremely. So
Thank you.
congratulations on that, and all the hard work and
Thank
everything
you.
that you've done. Is there anything that we
And it's
might?
really hard.
Mhm. I can imagine it being easy, but it was worth it. Yeah. You can imagine
Absolutely,
not
every
do,
minute.
you can imagine not having done it that way, I bet. Is there
No,
anything you would have
and I
changed?
don't, no, I was just gonna say, I must be crazy. I really never wish to go back to our old lives because my husband stayed with me and he's been supportive of me, and it was really hard for him to adjust to the new me. And I asked him, why didn't you leave? Because that is so common. And he said, because I have to take care of my girls. And he's a saint.
I love him. I don't
So
know him, but how wonderful that he
he
is.
is, I wrote about him in my book. He is, I don't, this is so funny to say that I'm even going to say this. And I believe in the Lord Jesus. I love you. I love you. First there's Jesus, then there's Greg.
Oh, I love that. I love to know like how he went across and how he came, how like what was going through his heart, how his feelings were and all that kind of stuff. Is there anything else that we would love to talk about before, like I want to make sure that we cover as much as we can as you'd like to cover that will help others as well. I don't want to miss anything. Is there anything else that we might not have visited about that you're like, shoot, we should visit about that?
I will share one thing again.
Okay.
Don't say remember, because if we remembered, tell you the answer. And the
Right.
other thing is, please be accepting. You actually have to go through a period of time where you grieve your loved one as if they died.
Um,
That's how different it is. And people sometimes can't get past that.
mm,
And I feel like I I don't know if it's my brain injury or I was in survival mode for that long, but it took me 3 years to realize completely that Veronica isn't gonna be the same as she used to be. My husband and I had a talk after 3 years, the first time we ever really talked about it, and he told me our lives aren't going to be
wow.
the same. And I cried and cried and cried. Oh my gosh, it was horrible how much I cried. But then I went
You
on,
accepted. You accepted
and
and moved
we
on. Yeah.
still talk. We still talk about the brain injury, Veronica and I. I can tell you that I'm so glad it was me in the car with her, because I would never want my child to go through having a brain injury without somebody else that understands, because it's
Oh,
horrible. It took my daughter 10 years to accept the fact that she has deficits and she's not going to do a lot of the things she used to do. She doesn't drive. We have guardianship of her. She's going to be living at home.
yeah.
But one nice thing is nowadays, because the economy is so bad, lots of her friends live at home. It's not so unusual anymore.
Oh,
So,
she has
um,
friends as well, like other friends. I love that for her, and I love that for you guys. And I love how you
what's
guys have accepted and your husband. And I think it's interesting. It
and
took
my
3 years to have that conversation. Huh?
my older daughter is 34, and she is Veronica's very best friend, but she has said on occasion, I miss my old best friend. And that is
Oh,
heart wrenching. That's heart
yeah.
wrenching. There's nothing we can do about it, but she is so supportive. When I got out of the hospital, I couldn't take care of my family. She took care of
Yeah.
me. She was
Wow.
17 and she was telling me what I could do, what was a good idea and what was a bad idea. And she was making the food and she was cleaning the house. She was doing
Wow.
everything. And I give her so much credit for that.
Wow.
She's my little angel. Ooh, I got two angels. Both my
Seems like it
girls.
almost
We're all
it brought your family very close together, didn't it?
it did, but that's also not common. That's what I've heard. That it's not common. But we are so attached to each other. It's
That's such a
wonderful.
great testament of the possibilities. So
Hmm.
thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome. One last thing. In my blog, I share
Yeah.
everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the sad, all of it. Although I talk about the good stuff a lot, there's
Yeah.
some really, really hard things. And a really hard thing happened last week that I don't really want to put on the air, but you can definitely read about it in my blog.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. I'm
And
I'm sorry to hear that, but you seem to always show up, bring the
mhm,
joy that you can, and remain to keep the family together. And you're right. What a
mhm,
testament to Greg as well, and to God and to
ab-
Jesus for those you know, who believe. And that has been such a great testament. Thank you so much for sharing, Dawn. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for
I
sharing.
can I tell you the title of my book too?
Yes, please.
Oh, a miracle a day, one day at a time. Hope after traumatic brain injury. It is honest and raw, and
Mm.
it doesn't sugarcoat anything at all. It's educational as well.
Can we find that on Amazon or on your website or both?
Yes, you can find it on there as well. And I wrote it because I wanted to educate others about things that we were never educated about.
Yeah,
And I want to give people hope, and I want them to feel validated and understood and not feel so alone, because that's very hard.
that is hard. Thank you, Dawn. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me on so much.
Thank
I
you.
was a little nervous, but you're very easy to talk to.
Great. It was such a great share and so many great little nuggets, I think. I think sometimes people think that we have to have all these, like a big, huge nugget. Yes, but it's a compilation of all the small nuggets that make it so big. And and you're right, brain injuries are a big thing that happens significantly more often than people talk about. So thank you for bringing that
True.
awareness. I appreciate it.
Thank you.